Well, hello and welcome to GeoSnippits. I'm Headhardhat. In the next few minutes, we're going to give you some interesting information and tidbits about the game, the sport, yes, the obsession, known as geocaching. Can you hear that? Well, today it's raining out, and that's not exactly the best time to go geocaching for me. What I like to use rainy days for is to go out and create my own geocaches. What are we going to do today? We're going to take this little guy right here. This is a Nano. This is one of the smallest geocaching containers you can find. And we're going to make it into an evil geocache. How do you say that? Very simple. We're going to take that little Nano and we are going to camouflage it and turn it into something like this. This is an actual geocache. Now at first look, it may look like, oh, a clump of dirt. Or one like this, where it may look like a piece of mold, or asphalt, or a rock. All different ways that you can camouflage it depending on what color and how you paint it. We're going to show you how to do that. Let's start now. Now the reason why I really like this evil geocache hide is because you're camouflaging it so well to fit the environment. And that's one of the things that you really need to do for this hide. Figure out the colors that you're going to want this geocache to be. If you're in an area that has a lot of mud, something like this works great. This guy just literally looks like a hunk of dirt. And this is going to make finding it that much more difficult. The different ingredients you're going to need to make this truly evil geocache. Okay, let's start off with the styrofoam. What you want to do is understand the size of the geocache that you're going to make to do this. And what I mean by that is you need to know how big you want your geocache to be. Now, when you make your mold for this, you need to do not perfect circles. You need to make it a little different in size so that it fits more in nature, depending on where you're going to hide it. So what you want to do is take a screwdriver, I've just got one of these little teeny tiny ones here, and just start scraping out a rough area that you want your mold to be. The idea that you want to do is to scrape this to the size that you want your geocache to be. Don't go too deep so you actually go through the styrofoam all the way, but put it probably about a ½ inch deep, maybe a little further. The thing that you want to make sure is that your Nano fits almost all the way, or does fit all the way into that hole. Don't worry if it's too deep, because we're going to do a couple of layers of resin before we actually put the Nano itself into it. But just as a test, if it fits where the top of the styrofoam equals to the top of the Nano, you're deep enough and that will work just fine. Now you're only going to mix for this first part a small bit of resin. What we want to do is kind of make a base that we're going to put the Nano on, because we don't want the Nano to be sticking out of the bottom of, or actually what would be the top of the mold. We want to make a little base for it. So all you need is a small bit of resin that we're going to pour into the very bottom of this, and then we're going to let that harden. Let's make the resin now. You take your cup and you take and pour a small amount of resin. And I'm talking, you know, you're not even covering, in this particular case, the bottom of the cup. Just a little teeny tiny bit. And then in this case, since it's 1-to-1 ratio, you pour the same amount of the hardener. Take your very expensive stirring sticks. In this particular case, Chinese food chopsticks work really well. Mix that resin up. All right, now you have your resin here, thoroughly mixed, really good. What you're going to want to do is take it, and the idea is not to fill the entire mold. You want the bottom of it filled, just enough to make like a platform for the Nano. So you pour that in just enough, again, so that just the bottom, or what actually will be the top of the geocache, is filled. Then you're going to take that and let it harden overnight. Okay, I now have myself a fresh batch of resin made up and mixed, and we are going to pour this right into the mold, just like this. And again, what you want to do is not fill it too much that it covers up the line of the Nano itself. So you want to keep it just below that line. You can see the mold itself is now nicely filled in. Now once again, we're going to let this harden overnight and start working on it tomorrow. It's now the next day. Yep, that's the beauty about television. You can do these little time warp tricks. You can see here that the resin is rock hard and is ready to come out of the mold. But note that the resin is below the O-ring line of the Nano. That's extremely important because otherwise you wouldn't be able to get the Nano open if it hardened inside the resin. Good tip to know. Let's take this out of the mold and see what to do next. So here is our mold. We're going to take it out. Now keep in mind, you can make molds out of just about anything. We did styrofoam here because with styrofoam you can get that nice rock look. But you can make molds out of plaster of Paris. There are rubber molds. There are molds you can make with sand. It doesn't really matter. But find what works best for you. For us, in this particular case, I'm just going to take a screwdriver and poke some holes around the mold to free it. Okay, I think it's just about ready. Let's should be loosening up here. There it goes. All right, and this is what our geocache is going to be. Way cool. As you can see here, we have the mold of styrofoam, and what you're going to want to do is basically break away all of the styrofoam that you don't want. So in other words, you're going to want your mold here with the resin base to start looking what you want it to be. Now in this particular case, we're going to spray paint this so it can be any color that you want it to be. But if you want it to look like a rock, you might want to keep it something more like this. If you want it to look more like bark, or what I want to try to do is make it look more like the tree mold that you see on sides of trees, I'm going to thin this out as much as I possibly can and get it down to the shape that you want. Pretty cool. There's your Nano in the resin, hard, with a very cool texture on the outside. Let's go paint it. Now for this particular one, I want it to look kind of like tree moss because I'm going to hide this literally on the side of a tree. So I'm going to go with some greens. Let's paint it now. I am using a flat green paint that you can get at any hardware store. Give it a good coat. Do this side and then do the back. Now while this base green is drying, I'm going to spray a little bit of textured paint in stone color on top. And what that does is that gives it even more of a texture, and it will absorb some of the green below it. Okay, so let's quickly go over what we learned today. We learned that making truly evil nano geocaches can be a lot of fun. That using resin and molds, you can make all sorts of shapes and sizes to make your nano geocaches. It's great fun, and it makes geocaching a lot of fun too, because it makes the hide that much more difficult without making it impossible. That's all part of the game. Well, folks, unfortunately it's time to go, but before we do, I want to encourage you to go out and make your own truly evil geocache on your own. Have fun making it, have fun hiding it, hide it with permission, of course. This is Headhardhat for GeoSnippits, and we hope to see you out on the trail real soon. Bye-bye, folks.